Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. This is DV LeBron. I am very happy to have the MISD board president, Mr. Gary Vineyard, on. How are you, sir?
And well, thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
So, I was going to go ahead and I wanted to have you on. We've been talking about having you on for a long time. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to make it work.
Right.
But I thank you for coming on.
Yes, sir.
We're going to go through the issues, but first, I want you. There's a lot of new people, if you haven't noticed, in Midlothian.
Yes, there are.
There's a whole lot of building. So can you go ahead and give me kind of a bio intro on you? And I'll go ahead and once you're done, we'll get into the questions.
Sure. So, first of all, appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come and visit with you guys and talk with the
Thank you.
community. So, I'm serving my fourth year and my second term with the board right now. I'm my second, finish up my first year of the second term that I have. I've been the board president since May of last year. I've lived in Midlothian since 1978. I grew up here, graduated here, raised my children here, graduated here as well. So I'm Midlothian blue and all the way through. I graduated MHS 1987 and was a member of the Panther Regiment back in those days and loved every bit of it. I had the privilege of having most of the educators that you see on these buildings were people who educated me at one point in time. And so LaRue Miller was one of my fourth grade teachers. Frank Seal was my middle school principal. Randall Hill was my elementary school principal. Dolores McCatchy. I mean, going back, I mean, everybody that's in there pretty much has been an educator of mine. So at one point in time, so I have a lot of respect for the educators in this town, and have a love for this town, and that's what really led me to become part of the board.
Well, it is definitely it is you are definitely a hometown boy, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I got here as quick as I could.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel that sentiment. So you're the school board president, chosen by your peers.
Yes, sir.
And can you quickly tell people what that entails, that job entails?
Well, when you're doing the president, obviously you set the agenda. You work with the superintendent. You work with the school board, your constituents that are on the board with you, and basically negotiate with them and set the board policy. Help them set board policy, negotiate back and forth on that. And really, it's I work hand in hand almost on a daily basis with the superintendent on the issues that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, as well as the trustees that may have questions and things of that nature.
Yeah, and I wanted to tell you now that I have you on here. Great pick on computers. Great pick on the superintendent. I had Miss Joanne Fay on when she first started, and
Yes.
I didn't pepper her with too many questions because she was brand new, but she was gracious enough in the middle of moving, in the middle of going through all the stuff she was going through. She was
Mm-hmm.
gracious enough to come on the Ellis Talker and talk to the people of Midlothian. So I
Mm-hmm.
was very good pick. Very gracious person. That was good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
She has
so
done an amazing job for us. I do want to talk about her for a minute, if I may.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
when we went through our search for a new superintendent, um, one of the things that came up in her interview that she'd mentioned is that how Midlothian, and this is not just she wasn't the only one to say this when we were interviewing potential candidates, but that Midlothian wasn't just a one-stop shop to come here in a progression. It was more of a destination district, and that was really here's where she wants to be, and here's where she wants to finish her career. So, uh, and I'm so happy that we made the choice. She's done such a great job with us to this particular point, and the community has really welcomed her. So she's building a dynamic team, and we're already seeing the benefits of what's going on with her leadership. So I'm thankful to have her.
Yeah, she was a good pickup. Definitely. That would be if that was a draft. That would be first round. So
Yes, definitely.
so being board president, you've been board president. So you're slightly new at that position,
Yeah.
right? Or you've been there about a year.
Yes, sir.
About a year. How you
Yes,
liking
sir.
that?
It's good. I mean, I've held positions like this before, so at different levels, not quite to this particular level with a school board or anything, but I've been in president's role before, so I'm familiar with how it works and what it takes to be a president.
Okay. Well, I'll just kind of jump into the issues a little bit. The schools are growing. exponentially. I saw on one of the meetings that you guys are going to be considering a bond.
Yes, sir.
Am I incorrect in that information?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Can you tell the people in Midlothian a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, at this particular point, we're growing, by 5-6% per year, and that will continue to grow. I mean, our demographer comes in and gives us the report that is just showing us the substantial growth that we're having year over year, and it's not going to go away. I mean, it's just going to get more and more. So with that being said, I mean, we have see the need that we need to be prepared for another bond. We're going to have to bring in a couple more schools, and the only way to do that is, probably with another bond. So we brought in our accounting firm to kind of give us an idea of what our bond capacity would look like. So we could kind of get an idea of what we could do and as far as a bond without raising taxes, to kind of come up with an idea of where we'd need to be. So at this point in time, that's what that's where we're moving towards. We did meet as a board Monday, as you know, and at that point in time, we prepared to go ahead and get a committee together, a bond committee together, who will help us get this bond created, and help us get this thing done.
Well, that is that there's going to be a lot of concerns with that. Obviously, taxes are a major issue here in Texas. I mean, and anywhere, but the property taxes are definitely something that people are talking about. So
Sure.
now you're talking about a bond, okay? And is it something that just cannot be done with the current budget? Because I knew we had at some point we had like 30 million over. And I know that 16 of it or something like that, you have to have, like, period, by the state, you got to have.
That is
So,
correct.
is it something that has to be done by a bond?
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's not enough general fund money or anything to be able to do something like that and build even one school with the remaining amount of money that's left over in that fund. So yeah, the only way we're going to be able to do that and not overcrowd our schools is to pass a bond. We're not looking to come up with a huge number or anything like that as far as that goes. The one thing we've been able to do as a board, and with our CFO, Mr. Norris, who's done a phenomenal job for us when his tenure here, is to lower our tax rate consecutively year over year, as well as our bond rate. And so we dropped that by 2 cents. So it was 50 cents, it's now 48 cents. So to help our taxpayers. And so at that point, with this new bond, what we're looking at is the capacity of what it would look like to keep it at 48 cents, not increase it. So that's not an increase in the rate itself to our taxpayers.
It is. So just so I get it clear, it's not going to, the way that you have it set up, it's not supposed to increase their taxes, but it's going to add to your debt load.
It's not going to increase the tax rate itself. Now, what it does to somebody's personal property taxes, as far as that goes, because that's not under our control. That's based on property valuations and things of that nature. But yes, sir. As far as increasing the debt row, yes, sir, we'll increase the debt row.
Okay, and kind of, and I'm sorry to pick you. This is sort of like Norris territory. I'm getting into here. How long is the bond, and how long it is before we pay it off? Are we anticipating to be able to pay that bond off faster?
That's some of the stuff that we're still working on at this point in time, as far as the debt repayment we're going to do on that and suggestions that come along with that. We have debt repayments on all the bonds that we do that are tiered to go all the way down. So we'll go back and look at whether or not that should be a 20-year bond or a 30-year bond and a repayment on that at a later time. We haven't made that decision just yet.
Okay. I'm sure you're going to take advantage of the current. The interest rates are currently lower. They are rising, but they are currently lower.
Yes, sir.
So
and we want to take advantage of that, obviously, if we can with that. But the other thing is, we've been paying down our debt quite a bit, and again, Mr. Norris has been phenomenal on that to pay our debt load down quite a bit and save our taxpayers millions and millions of dollars in interest by doing it that way.
I wanted to have Mr. Norris on because he is phenomenal with those numbers. I mean, nobody breaks the numbers down like him.
He is the man. If we need the money, he finds the money.
Let's see. So this is one of those rare occasions there, Mr. Vineyard. I too love many of our schools are named after former educators. Now I hear Mr. Norris brought up another phenomenal asset. What grade level schools will be looked at for the
Uh,
bonds that we're proposing?
right. Elementary schools is, I think we're looking at one, possibly two elementary schools um, immediately. There could be another possible middle school, but again, that's where we're really kind of putting together the committee to determine what's going to be the best options for us. But that's what I see as an immediate need.
Okay.
This is
Well,
over the roughly about the next 5 years, 5 to 6 years, probably.
okay. How many, like in general, with the plan, like you have a plan, all these organizations have a plan going forward of what's going on. Are you guys going to be revising that plan, or that plan was revised recently, maybe going forward that accounts for all this growth?
Can you? I'm not sure that I understand your question. Can you
The
rephrase?
the board or the school district has a plan. I imagine has a plan of how it's going to deal with things going forward as far as growth and the
Oh,
schools and stuff. That kind of plan. Is that a plan that
yeah,
was done
that's. I mean,
recently, or
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, we already have that. I mean, we're finishing up on Heritage High School right now, which is going to accommodate that school up to 2,000 students in growth, and we'll be opening Gene Coleman Elementary, or 8th Elementary School, next August to accommodate that. That's going to give us some time on that. But by the time we get to where we need to, we're going to have these other schools that are going to start filling up, like Baxter, Vertovsky, and some of our others. My biggest concern right now is the growth that's happening north and what's filling up in Petoskey. The great thing, so once we get to and get Gene Coleman School open, then that will help relieve that a little bit, and we'll have to do some rezoning again on that. But that's my immediate concern is just the elementary school level. I'm not so concerned at the middle school and high school levels right now. We've made the changes we need to make to get there and cover us for a few years on that. But it's the elementary schools that we've got to watch for right now.
okay? That on that north side, you're saying we're getting a lot of growth there. I've
That's
seen it. They're carving up everything over there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not one area. I mean, it's going all over the place. But when I look at the numbers, the astounding numbers that I'm seeing that come in over with Vitosky schools and all that, that kind of is what I see where we need to try to make sure we try to get some relief on pretty quick.
How many years do you have left on this current cycle for you?
Each year you run, it's a 3-year cycle. So
Mhm.
I'll be completing my first year, so I'll have 2 years left in May.
Okay, so you have time to kind of implement your vision. Of course, you got to work with the other board members,
Absolutely,
and you have to form coalitions and stuff. So,
absolutely.
um, what what would you say is your plan going forward on dealing with? There's going to be a lot of issues that are coming, and there's a lot that have popped up, as you know.
Hmm.
There's been a lot of issues, and academically, what would you like to see? Where would you like to see the district? Because we're going to get into all those other things, but just in general, academically, where would you like to see the district going forward?
Well, and that's a great question. And I think the thing is we want at the end of the day, all of us as the trustees, as well as the administrators in our schools, want what's best to our students. And for us as a school board and the administrators, it's about student outcome and what can we do to make sure that those student outcomes are better from the year from before. Obviously, the pandemic and COVID has had an effect not only in our district, but districts across the country. We are fortunate that we are faring better than most of the districts in the area, and even in the state, that we haven't really suffered as bad as some of the other districts have. I think that to our one-to-one technology that we didn't really take the hit, that some campuses who did not have that type of technology to be able to do that. So it's really just kind of going for me. It's kind of going back to the basics and making sure that our kids get educated correctly, get done. We're already seeing improvement at our third grade level. Third grade reading dropped 6% from last year, which is a big number, which is a target that was really, really good and very big news for us this past board meeting. So it's just those progressions, and that's where it really matters is at that level. If you catch it there, then that's where you can do that. So it's critical that we catch them at a young age and make sure that they're on target where they need to be so that they stay that way going forward. And as long as we can continue that curve, then we're going to be doing well. And I think we're already seeing the results of that. And so those third graders now moving up are only going to make those numbers for us as we move forward look better.
That's good. That's good. Technology, right?
Yes, sir.
So we, that's good. That's the good plan to go forward, trying to get, because I think when you get so many people and so coming in so fast, and then, you know, trying to accommodate that and educate those students and getting the proper staff settled in and getting all that rolling, that can be a very difficult thing
Yep.
to go forward. And sometimes the kids might pay a price. Now, COVID was a big part of our lives recently, and even Omicron. You were there for all of it,
Yes.
and I'm sure it was a scary time. Just kind of briefly tell me, like when COVID started, what was the kind of information you were getting as the board president? I want people to see kind of what you were told, what was happening to you, what were you seeing, what were you being told that people weren't being told?
Well, it's just the information that we get from, it's not, everything comes to me is filtered through me, either through the superintendent or somebody else in administration who was handling that at that particular time. At that time, we had Dr. Heathcote, who was talking with the county and getting us information about what was coming along there. And then, of course, the CDC and every information we were getting, everything was so brand new when it came down, we didn't really know what we were dealing with at the time. And so we worked at an abundance of caution as much as we could when it first came down. Or obviously, I remember it was spring break whenever that initially went down, and got a message that this was coming, and we didn't know what the situation was going to be, and they were going to take a week off of spring break to kind of regroup. They weren't going to. We were going to go ahead and go virtual, we felt, but we wanted to go ahead and get the week after spring break to ensure that we had everything in place to get that done. So then that's pretty much when we went full board with virtual one-to-one technology and finished out the rest of the year that way and back in 2020.
Okay, that that was a very tough time. And then, just to make things a little bit saltier, um, you start having issues with race and
Hmm.
dealing with those, and that was a very hard and somewhat, sometimes dramatic, but a very hard, very real concerns.
Yeah.
That was a tough time on all counts. And so, as a person in a community, you get tugged all kinds of different ways there. And so does every board member. And so, with all that happening, and all that storm, you have a board member resign,
Hmm.
um, and a board member who's been an integral member. She was
Hmm.
the vice
Vice President.
vice
Hmm.
president trustee.
Yes, sir.
She was very, she's very knowledgeable,
Yeah.
and she stepped away from it.
Mm.
And it, I don't know her. I don't know what her reasons are, and that's, she had placed a statement. So I advise everybody to read that. Don't come up with different stuff. But
Right.
she got off of the school board, and now you have a number of vacancies that you're going into, and
Yeah.
and I like to, I hate to say it, but the stress of what was going on, those things, it plays a role, right?
It does. It certainly does. I mean, this is what we do is probably the most difficult volunteer job there is to do. I don't, in my opinion, there's just not a one that's more difficult than what we do in this day and time. Um, it's just you hear the stories across the nation about issues that are happening at different school board meetings and schools and all of that. So um, it's become difficult, and some of it has become transitioned here and become local issues here. And so yeah, it's polarized the community a little bit. So it's taken a toll on us to be able to kind of rein that in and get control of it, and let the people know, look, what's going out there in some of this in the nation is not necessarily happening here per se. And the great thing about our community, and the thing I love about our community, is that if there is an issue that is going on in one of our campuses or schools or whatever, for example, there was a library book that we didn't even know was there, and it was the public that made us aware. Hey, look, we've got a really bad book here, and it didn't take very long before we were able to make it and get that corrected. So that was really the community helping the district, and remove a volatile issue that was going to be a problem. So I want to thank the community members who took a part in that and care about enough about our district and our kids to step up and say something.
Yeah, I mean, how do you balance the needs of the constituents coming, because there's very valid arguments on all those things, and how have you tried to balance that and keep and temper that, and then address concerns from both sides, actually address it? How have you felt you've done, and what are some of the things you think you've done?
First of all, I lean on policy. I don't lean on opinion. I lean on fact, not supposition. So when I have somebody who has a question about whatever it might be, the first thing I do is, what does that look like in compared to policy? How does it compare to policy? So I'll know how to answer it. Obviously, it does not matter what decision I or we as a board make on any topic. We're going to make half the people happy and half the people mad on every decision we make. That's just the role of what we do, unfortunately. I think the one thing that we can all agree on, board members, staff members, and parents in the community, is that we all want what's best for students and what's best for teachers. But how we get there is really the question. And everybody has a different idea about it. At the end of the day, it's the trustees and the administration that come together to bring the best for these children.
And I'm sure that's one thing. Definitely, one of my one of
Hang
the
on,
issues.
if you don't mind, I didn't answer your question fully, so I do want to go back and answer it if you don't mind.
I don't
You asked,
mind. This is your chance to talk to people in Midlothian.
you asked me how I balance that. Well, one of the things that I do is I listen, and I try to hear as many people as I can. We get a lot of emails, and so I will respond to an email if I can, letting them know thank you for replying, and I appreciate you sharing your concerns. And then whether it's an issue that I can address or if it's an issue that I'm going to have to forward to the superintendent or someone else. The role of the trustee is not daily activity, daily operational things. There are a lot of issues that will get brought to the board with us that are daily operational procedures that we do not handle. But they think that because we're the board of trustees, that it's our job to do so. And that's not the truth. There are other people in place that handle the majority of the questions that come to us, and so they get directed to those particular people. When you're a
Nope.
trustee, your role is oversight, and so you're looking at things from 30,000 feet. You're not on the ground. We're not boots on the ground. That's not what we do.
Well, that's why I interviewed a superintendent, because she does the day to day.
You're exactly
She
right.
does the day to day stuff. She knows that.
You're exactly
So that there is and that's why I asked you the role of a board member, because there could be misconceptions on what you can and cannot do, and
right.
it can all get very dicey, and so and it has gotten dicey here and there.
Mm-hmm.
um we've weathered a lot of the storm. There's still some concerns that you're addressing. I'm going to
Yes.
go to one of the concerns that were up was bullying.
Yeah.
So there was several posts on the Midlothian sites that talked about um, a child being bullied, and this mom was irate.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a father. I know you are, and you're a good man and everything. And if your kid was being bullied, that yeah, and I think anybody feels that way.
Yeah.
So she went online, and she didn't feel like she was getting the help that she needed and stuff, but she wasn't the only one Mr. Vineyard. There was others that have expressed problems with bullying at MISD.
Mhm.
What are some of the things you'd like to see going forward, dealing with that? Because that's been a concern for a little while, and some parents, some say that it's not being addressed. So, can you speak to that?
Well, yeah, and the thing is obviously, as a parent myself, I've gone through it. I've had that. I even came in and before I was on the board, I even addressed the board about a similar issue, about a bullying incident that I'd seen on social media as well, and it inspired me to actually come and let the board know, hey, this was what was going on at the time, and that's kind of initially how I kind of got involved with the board, and that was 6 years ago. Um, so there are different. We have policies in place that handle this. As far as bullying goes, it is, I was just looking at our board procedures and our disciplinary procedures and all of that. As far as what measures do we have in place on that, as far as that goes, we have the right people in place to do that. It's a campus issue, so it has to start at the campus, and whether it be from a teacher involvement or principal or SRO, whatever it might be. Um, it's usually handled there. I have full faith in our SROs and our principals and teachers to try to do the right thing and give them the opportunity to do so. Sometimes it may or may not work the way that the parent expects it to do so, but these people that are employees of the district are following policy guidelines, and so that's what they're required to do on that. So the superintendent is very heavily involved in that, and has I know of the issues that you're referring to, and I know that the superintendent has been taking some personal interest in these, and I appreciate her doing that because she didn't have to, but I know that she cares about kids just as much as we do, and she wants to ensure that our kids are going to be okay.
Everybody wants their kids to be safe when they go to school. That's
Absolutely.
one of the places that should be safe, and parents are entrusting. So when that
Absolutely.
bullying stuff happens, and and a mother feels she has to go online and put that because her grievance is not being heard, that
Yep.
can be, the perception of that. Whether the reality was something else or something, I don't know, but the
Right.
perception of that is bad for the school, and
Uh,
and a very good school district that we are, and a good community. Something like that is very it puts a little stain on you.
Yeah,
So
it hurt. I hate seeing those type of things. It really bothers me as well. As a parent, I can relate to it. So I'm not going to sit there and play like this does not, affect me or upset me, because I'm just as upset as the people seeing it. But I also know that there's more to the story that one I can't repeat here. Okay,
that's fine.
and
Yes.
there's more to the story that 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 I need to know on that. But at the end of the day, again, that's an operational role. It's not something that we as the trustees would actually do, and it's not something that we would actually handle unless it's something of that nature is actually brought to us by administration where they feel a change is necessary. And I've combed over our board operating procedures and our disciplinary procedures in that to see if there's any holes in that, and I don't see any at this point.
Okay. um I wanted to ask you before I forgot, and I'm sorry I didn't ask you then. Have you decided as a board whether you're going to appoint somebody or do an election to replace Miss Andrea Walton?
We are scheduled to have our meeting about that discussion on March the 7th. And at that point in time, once we go into discussion, we may or may not come out with a decision at that point in time. I won't know that until we get into that, until we get to that meeting. So that you guys know, we don't actually have to fill that position for 180 days. We're not required to do so immediately. Okay. So we can take our time and make this decision. It's not a rushed decision. We do have an election coming up in May, a general election. If we do decide to go to special election, then it would become another election that would go on a ballot, like the other school board members on there. So that is option one, or option two would be to appoint somebody to the position at that point to continue and finish that term, and then they would only last until May of 2023 when that term expires. Whether that person chooses to run again or can continue or not, that would be their decision. So, but those will be discussions that we have at our March 7th meeting.
So I can't get any inside info on the Ellis Talker about who's the candidate. You know that I'd love to break that.
Hey man, I'll knuckle bump you, but you know.
Yeah, I know. I get it, my friend. Okay, so going back to that other thing, and I'm sorry I had to go back, but that's a very important thing that people are going to be concerned with.
And I also want to address something about that too. You mentioned it earlier about her service, and I want to personally thank Ms. Wilson for the years of service, 5 years of service she gave to MISD. What we do is difficult at times. It's very rewarding, but it's also very difficult at times, and it can be stressful. And it's not just us; it's our families. Our families go through this too. She's taking time away from her husband. She's taking time away from her from her children. She's taking time away from her business. That she's a business owner. So, and all of that adds up. And like for me, I mean, I spend especially right now with everything that's going on and the situations that are happening, I have multiple hours per day right now, daily, that I'm dealing with for board duties that I'm having to handle right now. So it's a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
As a volunteer. So it's a big job.
Yeah, the pay. I heard the pay is not so good. I heard the pay is not so good. So you definitely put a lot into this stuff, and you could take quite a beating, and it's part of it. But I told everybody who comes on here that wants to serve in the public, thank you for wanting to do something like that, and serve your community. Now, I wanted to go ahead and ask you briefly on budgets, because are we going to be starting to work or at least look at a budget framework here soon, or are we too early?
We're not quite there just yet.
Okay. What are some of the priorities you'd like to see in the next budget, and can you tell the people kind of where you'd like to land on taxes?
Well, I'm a proponent for lowering taxes. I've always been a proponent for lowering taxes. I've been pushing that since I came on the board. Luckily, every year that I've been on the board, we have reduced taxes. I would like to see us do that again this year. I think based on what I've seen, I think we may be in a position to do that. I think the other thing that I've been a big proponent for at the same time is pay raises for our teachers. Our teachers are the backbone of what we do in this district, and without them, there is no MISD. So I want to make sure that, and again, there's 7 of us, but I feel like I'm confident in saying that I think all of us as a group would agree that we want our teachers to be rewarded and paid like they need to be. So I will be hoping that we see another raise come to them when it comes time to discuss the budget.
A raise for the teachers. You'd like to see some lowering of taxes, and that's kind of when you get into the budget reality, though, things get rough. But in general, those are your principles, and that's what you'd like to be able to go with.
If we could help them a little bit more with their, healthcare or something of that nature. I mean, we contribute to their healthcare and all of that. So if that's something that we can increase as well, just to make that a little bit better. We did create. We have our own doctor. Where our employees and their families can go see a family doctor for a $10 visit to be able to do that. We did that a couple of years ago. It's right here locally. We also have our students have counselors to deal with whatever's going on with them. But our teachers and coaches and our paid staff, they don't really have that. So we came up with a counseling program where those people who are going through rough times, because guess what? Teachers and staff and all that, they're human too. They all go through problems just like we do. So they may need somebody to talk to. So we wanted to make sure that there's a program out there for them. And so we've established that as well.
How are you doing with staffing? Obviously, you're the last stamp on it. This is kind of, the day-to-day operations things, but in general, what have you been told? How are you doing on staffing with, teachers and hiring new teachers? Are you able to get good talent in and such?
We are. I mean, we acquire talent all the time, and we have a laundry list of people that are here and want to come to Midlothian. I mean, again, people want to work in Midlothian. They know about this district. They hear about this district, and so when we have openings, there's a lot of about people that usually end up applying for the position on that. As far as we just hired in our last board meeting, we just hired the approval to hire more staff, to be ready for Coleman when Coleman comes in. So we're consistently looking at that. Turnover is one of the biggest issues in teaching. When my last report we just saw, really, our biggest issue where we deal with the shortage, I guess you could say, is in our 1 to 5 year teachers. That's where we are struggling. And so I would like to see us, figure out a way where we can retain them to that, because we need their talent. And
Yeah.
so see what we can do about making that a little bit better. But I know I trust Dr. Fay. Again, that's an operational mode.
Hmm.
So that's something that Dr. Fay and her team are tasked with. She's
Hmm.
built a dynamic team. She just brought in a dynamic chief of staff who is also MHS, graduated from MHS as well. So she's true blue as well. And so I know that she's going to be an integral part of trying to make this happen for them. Our HR director is awesome. And so I have full faith that they're going to do what's needed to get our staff where we need to be.
Um, Parents are asking, is the district closed tomorrow for the inclement weather or
I
world
have that
conditions?
question. The superintendents, what happens to you guys? You know how that works. Um, is the superintendents for the county get together and discuss all that and kind of what's going on with their areas, what they see coming, and then kind of collectively come up with a decision on that, and individually for their own campuses, but on that. And so I was actually on the phone earlier asking that very question with one of my administrators, and I'm supposed to get a report on that this evening.
Okay, it hasn't been put out yet. Let's see.
No, it has not. It has not. So I'm hoping that we'll probably have a message, some type of input about that relatively quickly.
Okay. Well, I thank you for addressing it. The parent was concerned. Let's see. As a third grade retired reading teacher, I also love to hear third grade reading improving breakthrough year. So it's always nice to hear a good positive comment. I love positive. I go ahead
Yeah,
and comment positive. I love those things.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I was going to go ahead and go into, we're going a little longer than I usually do, but
Sure,
I'm trying to cover some good stuff and I'm hoping the
sure,
audience will spend the time to watch it.
sure.
Um, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do something and hopefully this works. Okay. Hopefully this all
You have
works.
a question? I saw a question somebody had asked. You and I talked about it briefly. I did want to address it.
Which
Um,
question, sir?
it was somebody said, "Why do we have to break everything down by race?"
Ah,
You remember that one?
yes, yes, I do remember.
And so I don't want that question to go unignored.
Hmm.
Um, that is something that the TEA, the Texas Education Agency, requires. And so we get a yearly report called the TAPER, Texas Assessment, on that public report. And what that does is it shows us, actually pulling it up now, and what that does is gives a breakdown of what we nickname subpops, okay, for each race and where they fall. And what that does is really just shows the demographics of where we're doing well and where we need improvement on that. And
Right.
so it's edit. That is something we look at every year, and it shows us again the good, bad, and the ugly, where we're doing good and where we need to improve. And it's you can't get better if you don't know where you need to improve on. And so this gives us that ability to do so. So it's
Yeah.
not you know it's not about it's not about pointing out anybody that they're doing bad or anything like that. This is just it's a report that helps us see where they needed ever areas of improvement can be in that. Some of our sub pops are outperforming others quite a bit.
So one of the rates, I mean, and there's a lot of things that you dealt with. So we have to be graceful as a community because we went through COVID and a lot of things. A lot of people don't learn in front of computers very well. So there's a
Right.
lot of things that go into that. But you know, we're going through that and we've been working through that. But the college career military readiness on this graduates on the district, you got a 61.1%. 2018-2019 school year, you were 71.7. You dropped, 10.6, 10.66. You dropped percent. So
Mhm.
talk to me about that because that's a big number. And so you're looking at the African American population, and they dropped down to 45 from 58, and
Mhm.
so on and so forth. You saw all those numbers, Gary.
Mhm.
It's kind of, those are concerning.
Mhm.
Can you go ahead and talk to the people about them?
Well, and again, you got to remember the time frame though, because this is a lagging report, okay, on that. So meaning that's not necessarily where we are right now. Lagging reports mean that they're trailing by usually about a year or so, okay. And so you're going to find that that's kind of brought in conjunction with everything's been happening with COVID and all of that. And, with COVID and being home and doing everything virtual, when you're virtual, you're not face to face with your teachers and with your peers. And so it's more of an individual effort. And at that particular point, so it's more emphasis at that point in time, really, when you're looking at a situation is on the student and student productivity, as opposed to maybe a group. You perform better as a group than you do individually, collectively, 99% of the time. And
Yeah.
so that's my feedback from what I see when I look at that is that that's just kind of
Yeah.
in we and it mirrors. I mean, we're not, that's how it went across the board. The state went through the same thing.
So, I'm just kind of scrolling through here, and I apologize. The the technology, me and technology, I'm getting better. I'm trying, but there is definitely work to be done.
So
So, so I was trying to show that so people saw, and one of the things that I noticed was, there were the the people I'm sorry, special education also
hmm
suffered on that. And
hmm
I did talk about, or I did ask a question about that
you
during the board meeting, and
hmm
Miss Wolf was gracious enough to come up and answer. She's the director of special education.
she's awesome.
um th- what are some of the things, and I know that's not big on the wheelhouse, your wheelhouse, but what are some of the things that you'd like to see as far as when it comes to special education? And there's some things that maybe we can get from the state or something to make that experience for those special education kids much better and help them grow faster.
I mean that's one of the areas I leave that to the experts, and let them come back and tell me, hey, this is what's best for kids. I'm not an educator by profession, so I don't pretend to know everything about education in that particular series. And that's where when you surround your people or surround yourself with the right type of people that know that industry and know what they're doing, then those are the people that you let them answer those questions for you. So for me to say that I know exactly what needs to happen and this is what should happen and all that stuff, that's I would be doing them a disservice by saying so. So I rely on them to do those reports and come back and say we know our weaknesses. This is what we need to improve, and this is how we're going to do it. And they
that
report that to the superintendent, who and then comes back and does that to us.
that
So that
is fair. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that is more than fair. I'm sorry I kind of put you on the spot about that.
you're okay.
Special
No,
education is
that's not
something
okay.
near and
I will tell you up front, but if there's an area that I'm not, skilled in or something like that, that's why we have I mean, if I knew everything, then why would we need anybody else? We wouldn't need everybody, right? If
mhm.
I know it all, but I don't. We're volunteers, and so we're here collectively as a board to try to do the best we can with the information that we're provided. But we also hired top tier people who can provide us the information that we need so we can turn around and make better decisions for our district collectively to be able to do that. Dr. Mrs. Wolf, she's top notch, so I trust her. If she tells me we need to do something, I can trust that what she's telling me is spot on because I couldn't tell you that myself.
Yeah, I've known her for a long time. She does know a lot about the
Yes.
special education program. Moving forward though, I want you to kind of tell. I want to lighten up a little bit. Tell me some of the good stuff you've seen in the district, and maybe congratulate some teams or something that's going on.
Absolutely. I mean, we have, you know what? I mean, there is so much going on in Midlothian right now, so many good things. I mean, we've got wrestlers that are winning state championships. We've got basketball that's going crazy. We've got wrestlers, and I mean, it's weightlifting and basketball, soccer. I mean, there's so much happening within all of our districts. And then we've got debate. We've got kids that just competed from there. I mean, we've got kids that just finished up fine arts performances. We just recently had not a concert, but a play. I was the Little Mermaid that was done, from my understanding, was just a phenomenal show. So I just, I love to celebrate our kids and what they're doing. And I continue to be amazed at how good our students are, by what they do. And I was, I was at a grocery store here not too long ago. And I saw a student go out of his way, to help a patron. And I just like, you know what, that's a Midlothian kid. It made me happy to see that. So it's not just what they do in school, it's what they do out of school too. And a lot of these kids are putting a lot of time into extracurricular activities, over and above what they do. They get up early and they stay out late. So, I'm very, very proud of our district.
Um, Miss Christie, here, let me put that on there. Miss Christie, will there be a decision about tomorrow's school day tonight? I'll let you answer that one, Mr. Vineyard.
I'm waiting on a report about that now. I'd answered that question a bit earlier, that I spoke with somebody on that asking about an update. They are looking into that right now. So we are supposed to be getting some type of report on this evening as far as school tomorrow. The minute
Hey,
that,
Chris, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting on a response as we speak to see, if because what'll happen is it'll be a broadcast message that comes to the board that lets us know we're going to be counseling school or whatever. If member serves me correctly, I do believe if anything, it will be a late start tomorrow. I don't know that we'll cancel school, but it could be a very late start for tomorrow.
Okay. Christy, one of the best ways to either on Midlothian Talk, or because they like to post the things first, or on the MISD Facebook page, they normally
Mhm.
post things right
Yes,
away.
yes,
Maybe that can help you, Christy. I'm sorry that it is late. I know we try to plan for tomorrow with kids and things could be hectic.
yes, yes.
So I've kept you long enough there, Mr. Vineyard. I could go on, we could go on for hours. Unfortunately,
We do.
people, they kind of drift off after that.
I
So
understand. It's all good.
um, the one of the things that all the turmoil has caused, um, with, and these are valid concerns on each one. People are scared about the over sexualizing of our children. People
Hmm.
people are concerned about race and how people are treated with race. These are, these are valid concerns that are coming in, and how our kids are being taught and stuff like that. But what has happened is that in that good intention to address those very valid needs, um, governing has suffered.
Hmm.
So I want you to kind of talk to the people in Midlothian as we wrap up, and just let them know kind of, going forward, what you'd like to see and govern and going forward from here.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of the things that we're going through right now is governance. And to be an effective board development is key and crucial, and we need to be able to do that. So we're actually going through some board governance right now, um, through Dr. Gibson, who's helping us go through that, to kind of get things back in order like we need. The other thing though is just understanding, you know, what we do as trustees, versus the operational mode. So we have basically you really have two buckets. You have a strategic bucket, and then you have the, active bucket, I guess you could say. And so we are more on the strategic side as opposed to the active side of the bucket. And so what we're doing here on the backside is just trying to make sure that everything is in line the way you guys need it to be, for the district. We understand that there have been some concerns with different issues that have come up that you mentioned. And those are things that Dr. Fay is very aware of and is working in the process of trying to make sure that our district is in position to be able to handle and move forward. Some discussions are difficult. And I mentioned from before, I've had very difficult conversations as a trustee with parents, since I've started on the board, and that's just part of it. As a trustee, it's important that we listen to what those concerns are, and then point them in the direction, whether that be something that we can handle, or if it's going to be something more at the academic level, where an instructor, coach, teacher, principal, whomever it may be, can step in and help them to be able to do that. But bottom line is that the board, the trustees that I sit with, we are all in this together. We are all for kids, and we all want what's best for Midlothian ISD, and for your children.
And that's one thing that I've said. I don't doubt that in any of the school board members. Um, there's always good intentions, definitely. Well, for those of you that come here first time and come over here, please like and follow. Please like my page. I do this. I interview people around Ellis County. Our leaders are politicians, the people who want to run, and all politics are local. They affect you personally. When this, a board member will decide whether your mortgage payment goes up. The county supervisor. So, and I think I may have lost Mr. Vineyard, but they decide your taxes. They decide a lot, and so it's very important that you stay informed and you watch these. And when you like and follow, you help me because I'm trying so hard to make this work because DFW media isn't here yet. When they come, they'll probably scoot me to the side. But till now, I'm the only one showing you non-biased interviews with our local people. So I need you people. I need your help. And if you know ways I could improve, tell me. Or you need know interviews you'd like to see, please let me know. But I am humbled by the likes and follows so far. Thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate you. I'm sorry I lost Mr. Vineyard. But technology happens definitely. So you take care.